Welcome back to the Scotti-BYTE channel, and this is Scott. So in the last couple of days, I've been talking about virtual disks in Linux. And one of the things that we discussed were ZFS file pools. And so in this video, I want to focus a little bit more on ZFS pools that are created inside of virtual files, which we covered last time. But I'm going to deal with a subject that a lot of people ask about, and that is what happens when my LXD ZFS pool is too small. So what exactly does that mean? Well, when you do the LXD Init command, it establishes a storage pool when setting up LXD for initial use. And if you choose the defaults, what it typically does is it will say you want a ZFS storage pool, and it'll create it inside of an image file, unless of course you have a spare disk, in which case it can create a ZFS pool on the disk. But when you're asked to create that pool, if you notice what I've highlighted here, we default to ZFS, which is good because ZFS is the recommended storage because of its high degree of reliability. And then if you say, no, I don't have an empty block device, and so then it'll say, okay, well, we want to associate a loop device. That's what I've been talking about in the last couple of videos, a file that actually has your ZFS file structure inside of it, and it says default 30 gigabytes. Well, some people tend to think that this might be the size of a particular container, like if you're starting a LXD container. And that's really a huge number for just that. But no, what this really points to is it points to the total size of the ZFS file pool that's going to support your LXD. And what that really means is it means the total size of all of your containers and their data put together, plus if you have any images stored in your pool, like if you've downloaded Ubuntu 20.04, which you have by default, if you start a 20.04 container or a 22.04 container or a Debian container or anything else, you've also got all of those source images that are located in your pool. So you can pretty quickly run out of pool space. So this is really about enlarging a files-based ZFS pool. And you can list all of your ZFS pools out with the command zpool list. And the default pool is what you generally have. If you checked all the defaults on LXD Init, then it names the pool location for your LXD to be called default, literally. And it can be found if you do a zpool status. And we're going to look at that here in just a bit in the live demo. So linuxcontainers.org, the people that support LXD, recommend the following steps to enlarge a loop file-based ZFS storage pool, which is what we're talking about. So first of all, they want you to stop all of your running containers because the containers have to be stopped before we enlarge the storage pool. The second step, and we've looked at this command before in the channel, you're going to do a sudo truncate and then size, and then you can add a number to it, 1 gigabyte, 10 gigabytes, whatever, and enlarge the size of your pool by that delta amount. And then you're going to point to where that default image is. So in my particular case, my LXD was installed via a snap on this particular node that we're looking at. And so this is the file path. But we're going to see that you can do a zpool status and determine what your file path is down to your image. And then you do a zpool, sudo zpool set auto expand equals on the default pool, or whatever name of pool that you want to affect. And then you do a zpool online -e, the name of the pool default, and then the pathway to the pool. And then we do a zpool set auto expand equals off on, again, the name of the pool, which is default. And that's all there is to it. Your pool will be expanded, and we'll be able to look and determine and verify that that is the case. So let's go see how to expand our ZFS default storage pool loop size in the file and see how we can provide LXD more storage when pool space starts running short in your ZFS pool. So here we are at the command prompt of my LXD host, and we're going to do a LXC list to see which containers we have. And we have 3 containers which happen to be virtual machines. So they're LXD virtual machines, but all 3 of them are stopped. And I don't believe that LXD virtual machines actually use space in the ZFS storage pool because they're much like virtual machines. They create their own image files outside of that pool. So that being said, let's do the zpool list command and see how much space I have left over in my pool. And you can see that I have 25.2 gigabytes allocated out of a size of 28.5 gigabytes. So let's create a new container, and we'll create an 18.04 container. And here we go. It's creating it right now. It's actually downloading the image and creating the root file system, and it's doing that inside of the ZFS storage pool. So as soon as that finishes, we will do another zpool list, and you can see that now I only have 2.92 gigabytes. And if I actually went out on this particular container and installed an app, that free space would go away pretty quickly because the actual operating system section of a container is not a lot of space compared to everything else. So other things that can take up space in your zpool would be the LXC images that you have. And if I do a LXC image list, you can see that I have now 6 different images, and they're different versions of Ubuntu. And then here's a custom image I created. It says Ubuntu 20.04 with the Scott account. And then this image right down here is the 1804 that we just downloaded as a consequence of creating that new container. The other thing that takes up space in LXD storage pools is profiles. And if you do a LXC profile list, you can see that I have a number of profiles here. By default, you always have the default profile, which is basically just the root file system, and networking to use the internal NAT. If you watch my channel frequently, you learned about the bridge profile and how we created it, as well as the untagged profile, and also how to create some profiles using Mac VLAN for your VLANs. In order to expand your storage pool, the first thing we'll have to do is stop any running containers. So if I do a LXC list, you can see that the test1 container is running. So we'll do a LXC stop on test1. The next thing we have to understand is where exactly the container is located. And in order to do that, we can do a zpool status. And zpool status says that my container is stored in /var/snap/lxd/common/lxd-dis/default.img. And the reason for that is because when I installed my LXD on this system, I installed it from a snap, and so it has a little bit different file path than if you installed LXD directly. So in order to be able to expand the storage pool, in my case, I'm going to expand my storage pool, meaning I'm going to expand that default.img file by 10 gigabytes. And in order to do that, I'm doing a sudo truncate -s plus, and the plus is very important, 10 gigabytes, and we specify default.img. After we do that, the next step is to turn auto expansion on, and we do that with the sudo zpool set auto expand on, and then the name of the pool, which is default. And then after that, there's another special command that we have to enter, and it's the command zpool sudo zpool online -e default, the name of the container and the pathway to the container. And then after we do that, then the last thing we do is to turn the auto expand off with the sudo zpool set auto expand equals off and the name of the pool again, which is default. So at this point, you can see that if we do a zpool list, we have 38.5 gigabytes in the default pool, and we now have 12.9 gigabytes free. So our ZFS pool has been successfully expanded. So in summary, a file-based ZFS storage pool is the best solution for a LXD storage pool in terms of integrity and also data safety for your containers. The default storage pool created when LXD Init is used to configure LXD must be large enough to store all of your containers as well as your images. And we learned how to enlarge the size of the default storage pool in case you're running out of space. So be sure to watch all my other tutorials on the configuration and management of LXD containers on the channel. Anyway, that's it for today. Please subscribe and like, and don't forget to hit that notification bell, and we'll see you next time.